Welcome. Thanks for coming back. I hope everybody got some pop and water, none of the beer and wine that's out there. You know, and you're ready and primed for another session. So I'm staring at something here that says 1 of 96 slides. You bet. I'm not planning on going through all of those by any means. So we're going to race through some of these, but what I want to do in the beginning is, introduce you to the concept here and put a little disclaimer out. In this presentation, I have a lot of different company names and pictures and images. This is the official disclaimer. These are not necessarily our customers or people we're working with. They're provided as examples so you can understand the use cases of the different applications that are out there. So with that, I'm going to go step right into the agenda and explain to you a little bit about what we mean by the Connected Car Cooperative, but we'll build that out. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what kind of connected car services are out there. You know, what's the market for it? And then consumer benefits. And then we'll talk about the different verticals, the industries that are using the connected car applications in the aftermarket. And then finally, we'll talk a little bit about some of the future offerings there. So with that, when we're talking about the connected car aftermarket, it's the billion cars that are on the road already. There's all kind of people that argue about the different numbers and everything like that, about how many cars are out there. A couple 100 million in North America. I was going to show you dozens of slides, but it really doesn't matter. There's enough illion of them out there for us. And that's the market we're targeting. You know, new cars they come out with, what are we going to do, 15 million in North America this year? Something like that. But there are so many out there that have something to say, and we want to tell you a little bit about what they can say and some of the applications that can be used. So that's what we're talking about. The aftermarket is kind of the now market, and there's an afterlife for these cars as well that are out on the road. So we'll walk through some of those, and the part of the aftermarket we're talking about is not like radio systems and everything like that. We're talking about connecting to the vehicle primarily with little OBD2 devices like this one that Mario makes for us. Thank you, sir, in large quantities. And the data that can be communicated. So for the most part, this is something, I'm not going to go through all the product specs and everything like that, but this is something that can connect to the OBD port, get all kinds of different data from the vehicle, as well as get accelerometer information and GPS information. It's all self-contained with a little antenna. That's all you're getting on the commercial side, but so you understand the context. Now, one thing to know is, you know, last year the industry voted to change the name of this from dongle, okay, to something else. And when I say dongle, when I say the industry, I mean actually 6 of us in a pub one night. But for the most part, we're trying to get some grassroots behind this thing. This is a data interface connector, henceforth.
Next.
I can go home and have fun with that one too. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is talk about, based on some of the, the use cases we'll describe, they kind of fit into these general categories. There's, for consumer benefits, there's, safety and security and vehicle health and environmental things, and you can look at it and say, there's benefits for a consumer, there are benefits for businesses too. There's people using these and getting business value, and there's also benefit for society. Like say you reduce emissions or something, or congestion. So we're not going to go into the exact hows of all that and each one of the different, benefits, but we'll talk a little bit about the consumer side of it, what you and I might want to get out of this, and a little bit on the business verticals that are coming along to show you how they're using them. So, classically, they've been used in the driver behavior realm. this is the first one we'll talk about. This is what the insurance companies use. You know, you've seen a lot of different programs. There's bunches of different insurance programs out there. And they, you know, you've seen Progressive, Snapshot, disclaimer, they don't use our device. But wait, I gotta look in the, but you guys have Progressive? You should consider it someday. All right, anyway, or if you're here. Hey, the other thing is, so they look at simple things. The time of day, how many miles you drive, you know, little aggressive behavior, cornering, braking, you know, that kind of stuff. That's how this really took off for us, and that's the market that we're serving largely. But they didn't really see coming some of the other aggressive driving things. We were recently approached by people in the UAE who asked us, hey, can your device measure if the car's up on two wheels? We said, yeah, it can. Why? and this is why. Okay? This is one of the latest trends in the UAE. So go figure. People are out there hot rodding on two wheels. And driving behavior and profiling is going to evolve somewhat over time. So that's a simple thing. It's hard to convince someone that driving behavior is a benefit to them. Like, I'm going to monitor your behavior. Who wants that? You know, not me. But some people don't know what's good for them. So maybe monitoring their behavior can make a difference. Okay, in the area of safety and security, we'll give you a few examples here and then a few later on as well. So something like this can let you know if you got in had some kind of event, an event that made your car look bad. And I can't call it a crash or accident notification or anything like that because there are too many lawyers in the world. But we can notify you if an event that looks kind of like that occurred. And that's some of the things they're using in Europe. They're looking at, you know, getting in an e-call. They're getting in a crash notification. Our insurance telematics partners are looking at how to provide this kind of value back to you and I. One of the other things you could do with a device like this is you could tell if someone is stealing your fuel. All right, we can look at fuel level, and you know, here's an example of a guy who's out making 800 pounds. Pretty good per day. That's some big money. Stealing fuel over in the UK, and there's a nice little story on him. Another one you could do is, you know, we have a very sensitive accelerometer in here. If your car is at rest, we could tell you if someone's moving it, like without the key on. You know, if it's being towed, you could wake it up, send a little signal, tell you where your car is being towed to. You know, show you a little bit of data after that. So those are some of the safety ones. In the arena of vehicle health, okay, we have lots of different things. All right, so one is what we would call scheduled maintenance. So now we know your odometer, and we kind of know how you drive. So we can tell you when you need to really change all these types of things. You know, when you need to come in for your oil, when you really need to do these, and you can build it into a program. Then there's what we call reactive maintenance. We can actually grab trouble codes from these vehicles, you know, in some cases decipher them, but here you're giving someone some ammunition so that they can go to their dealer or their service shop, and they actually know in advance what's wrong. In certain partners we work with can actually give you estimated cost for that. And then the last one is predictive maintenance. You can look at trends. You know, what's going wrong, or something is about to go wrong. My battery is getting low. Maybe I should replace it before December, you know, when it's really going to get low. Maybe your coolant is starting to trend a little hot, but it hasn't set the flag yet. These are things you can do to check. So predictive maintenance is coming along. It's very real, and some of our partners work in that area. The next one is convenience and pay per use. All right, convenience is things like just make life a little easier for us. If you're gonna go around and pay tolls or something, I hate those booths. I mean, you wait in lines and you pull out like 25 cents or whatever they need in some of them. Well, that's what it was 30 years ago. And now I just skip the tolls and wait to get the ticket. But the people are using this for road tolling. This is also happening in Europe a little bit more, but it's being looked at as a substitute for these ridiculous booths. Another one coming that's a little less intuitive than road tolling is road usage charging. And this is where they're looking at replacing the gas tax with one of these in all of our cars. And it sounds a bit like a pipe dream if you've never heard of it, but there are 2 states doing pilots. There are a whole bunch of different states that are engaged in it right now. One of our partner companies, Azuga, won one of the pilot positions on this, and it's pretty much because the funding is dropping, and they're looking for new ways. Our government, can you imagine that, looking for new ways to fund things? So, and it's actually a lot more fair. You know, if there's electric vehicles on the road, and we pay for roads with gas tax, how do they pay? Well, this is, and then they said, well, now we're going to start looking at this for all vehicles because we got to make it fair across the board. So if that happens, you know, hey, it'll take a while. There's a lot of runway before that does. The next one is environmental and eco-friendly things. All right, so some of our fleet customers and things like this, they do that. They look at your fuel consumption, they look at how you're driving, how much time you idle, and you can actually say, hey, if you behaved a little bit differently, we can save you some money on fuel. A little more forward-looking one by our friends here from 4.0 Analytics. Raise your hands. Mark, Gloria, thank you. They're looking at remote emissions compliance. You know, who wants to drive in? We don't do it here in Michigan, by the way, but because we have a strong auto lobby. But who wants to drive in and have your tailpipe sniffed? You know, schedule the appointment, wait in a long line like that to get it done, and then maybe have it fail. You know, if this thing's giving you some benefit to begin with in some other application, it could just be sitting there telling you that your car is compliant. And they've worked with some fleets. For the government right now, they have permission to do this on some government fleets, remotely test. So I see that as just kind of a natural benefit coming down the road to all of us. The last one is kind of the area that, you know, old guys like me aren't really hip on, but I'll mention it anyway because the young millennials, they do these kinds of things. But this is the, you know, rewards, social programs, location-based services, things like that. Look at Tim. He said, yeah, that's me, man. Yeah, that's it. You know, so people are trying to make these services a lot more interactive too. Even the insurance people are looking at some of these things where they're trying to gamify it for you, and they're looking. You know, if we know where you're driving or something, or when you go by a certain Quiznos, maybe we'll send you a coupon. Now these are it's very well suited for a smartphone application, but anytime you can get data, people can figure out nifty new ways to use it. That is one of them. Another one of them is you know, that Facebooky kind of thing, sharing your status with your friends. Here, you know, here they're saying who's the best driver. Not my bag, but there's no doubt this is real and in the industry. So I'm going to switch gears and talk a little bit more about the markets. Those are some of the things people are doing, the benefits. These are the different types of companies. You don't have to, you know, we won't read them all off here. We'll just go into them one at a time. But the whole idea behind this connected car cooperative is that many of these companies are coming at it with a single focus. You know, I'm an insurance company. I'm coming at insurance telematics. I just want to measure your behavior. Or I'm a fleet management company. I just want to do that. But there are so many different ways that they could benefit from utilizing the data and partnerships, cooperating with other companies that could leverage that exact same data. And we're seeing that take off right now. That's, you know, we're just kind of in a fortunate spot. Like, we're not the mavens of figuring out how the world's going to use data, but we sit there right at the port, you know, where this thing is. And so we get to connect people together. And you can see, we don't predict where people are heading. We're just telling you, this is where they're heading. This is what they're buying from us. This is what they want to use it for, and here's how we see it grow. So once again, so the first one, you know, pretty simple concept, been around for a while, fleet management. Usually they're just tracking your GPS, and you know, we want to know if the driver's going to his girlfriend's house or whatever, how long they're staying at each one of the individual, you know, customer sites. But now they're starting to add things like, you know, fuel consumption, carbon footprint, driving behavior. Now they can just plug this in, get going with a much smaller footprint. They don't have to go someplace and have it installed like a big hard box at a shop. That's taken off. The insurance programs that we mentioned, these are just, you know, examples of some of their websites. You know, there's a lot of them that have a program right now using a device. We're working with over 20 in North America right now. So, and we see where they started, what we'll call UBI 1.0, but now they're getting to, you know, instead of just that simple driver behavior screen, they're looking at which one of these other services can we leverage. You know, if I'm going to stick the device in your car, we might as well get all the use out of it we can. So we've seen people switching from like the rotation model of, you know, plug this in, we'll measure you for a few months and pray to God you stay driving like that after we take it out, you know, because we've now profiled you, to we're going to measure you, we're going to leave it in there permanently, and we're going to provide more value-added services. Now the reason they want to do that is because, one, it makes the device and all the data and everything cheaper if you can provide more value with it, and other companies are chiming in. Two, it makes the customer a lot stickier. You know, if you can plug something in and unplug it, you know, get somebody else's device, you got to start over again. The next one, these are some of the emerging ones, and I'm just going to go through them real briefly for you. But, you know, you can imagine if you're getting a lot of data, a lot of acceleration, a lot of GPS points, you can reconstruct some claims information. You put an extra gyroscope in here, you can figure out if things are rolling over. Roadside Assistance, this is from our local AAA people, and it said that the top 3 things they're looking for are dead battery, flat tires, and people getting locked out. It's pretty consistent across the pond too, because when I go talk to the people in the UK, they say they're looking for flat batteries. I was asked, could you detect a flat battery? And I went, is that a trick question? You know, but that's what they call it. I don't know, maybe they say dead tires. I don't know, but they're actually way better at providing roadside assistance than we are. They go out and fix over 80% of the cars right on the road. So they're very interested in knowing, hey, is your car, you know, if we can know in advance some prognostics, like what's wrong with it, we can service it better. So that's dealerships, service centers, people like that, they're looking at this area too. Dealerships want it for inventory management. They do like tracking. You know, some dealerships are really big. They move cars all over the place. They want to know where it is, but they want to use it with us too, to schedule our maintenance, all that type. You know, the scheduled maintenance, the reactive stuff. You know, if your light goes off, they want to know and tell you to come on in. So, and maybe that they have a bay open at Tuesday, and the exact parts they think you're going to need to fix that problem. Now that's, you know, you're getting down the road there a little bit, but when you get the trouble codes and you know enough about them, you can do a little more. And they want the same thing everybody else wants, loyalty. They want to bring you back to their place, right? So these people we're talking to them about it, and we see it from crazy places, parts supply stores, you know, folks like that are looking for it for do-it-yourselfers. You know, I'm just going to plug this in. Dealerships are also looking at it, and shops for intermittent problems. You ever have a problem in your car, go into the dealership, and it's not there? You know what I mean? And they say, sorry, we can't find it. Well, certain ones you might be able to find. You can't, you know, it's not a magic wand or anything, but it stays in the car and logs data. Okay, the next one is people are using this for distracted driving. You know, as I say to my kids, don't be that guy, you know, don't be the one that's texting and driving, but you can, we actually go from the Bluetooth to an application on the phone, one made by a partner company called Cell Control, and it just, when you're driving, disables the texting. You set up the policy so your kids or whoever, I mean, we won't do it to ourselves, but.
It's out now?
Yeah, yeah.
Is it?
No, that's out. And once again, you know, those guys actually, I think they built up their own device and everything just to send a Bluetooth signal that said, you know, I am a moving car. And that, you know, we're like, that's overkill. We're putting it in all these other things. We can build Bluetooth. We'll just send the signal to your app. So, and it complements a lot of different things. I know some insurance companies use something like that, where they say that complements their brand. Hey, we can sell that. The next one, law enforcement. People use this for, you know, it's funny, they use it for stolen vehicle recovery because the world hasn't figured out that it's plugged in there yet. Once they figure it out, they'll be unplugging them. But, you know, not all thieves are really bright. So we have helped them track down people, plus they're using them. Yeah, we've helped them locate stolen vehicles before. It's a big thing in Europe. They use, you know, fixed install boxes for that because theft is really like one of their #1 problems. So in certain countries, and they want to use it for tracking their own fleet. All right, and here's a natural one. Okay, I think you know, I think we've gotten to know each other good enough. I can share my family with you over here. Okay, so. Tough to see, but I got 4 older kids and a new daughter-in-law. So, in these 4 older kids, I figured out today that I have 30 kid years of driving experience. And kid years driving is kind of like dog years. You know what I mean? It's like I'm a 210 extra years old now because of that. And they, you know, they could use this for all kinds of things to help track them with, you know, the graduated driver's license, the automatic logs that you need, you know, it could keep for how they drive. You could provide really crisp feedback, you know, not, hey, you swerved a little, or I think you were going 5 miles over. You can show second-by-second data to somebody that says, hey, here's how you were driving, and here's how you have been driving since you left the training class. So that's a use case. Now, what I'd like to stop is, this is something my wife pulled for me over here. Here is, it says, Mike Carroll. I'm so mad I missed all ones, 111,111 miles. So what is he doing? He's taking a picture of his speedometer that he missed getting that particular mileage on, but while he's doing 70. And he's posting it on the Instagram. So, I mean, what's that all about? That's what we're talking about. We need to stop this kind of behavior. By the way, I have about 100 stories like that for our children. They have been tracked all over North America and foreign lands. So, anyway, next one using it. I do it on time. Rental companies, or they say in the UK, car hire companies. Some of them are looking at it. Just to know where their cars are being driven, you know, you sign those things that say, I'm not going to take it out of the country, and I'm not going to go on 2 tracks at the hunt camp, but we do it anyway. So, another one is finance. They have something right now they call Buy Here, Pay Here. Hopefully most of you people aren't in that program, but that's when you have really terrible credit, you go to buy a car, and they put a little interlock system in your car that says, guess what, if you don't pay your bill, we're shutting you off. Right here. Just, well, some of those people have looked at, you know, how could they incorporate the device into that too? What else could they do, or what other services could they provide? So we see that one emerging. Then I'm going to switch gears a little and talk about some of the other companies that can use the data. You know, they're ancillary. They're second tier to the people that put it in your car in the first place. But some of the repossession companies that the finance ones work with want to know where that car is, where that data is, and they can track you down. There's another use case that's kind of unique. You know, in Europe, a data logger may not be sufficient to detect the small changes in road surface condition that they have. You see, like they use little lasers, right, to measure the roads. And if you've driven around there, the roads are really great. But the data logger could, in the state of Michigan, clearly show you what kinds of problems you're going to be running into. Like if we used lasers, like our potholes are like black holes. They would just, the laser just disappear. You know, this is the kind of, you know, road surface that can do damage, you know, to your chassis, not just your rim. So this is an area we've explored a little bit with some of the Department of Transportation people. Data aggregators, people that take data, you know, from lots of different sources and use it. You know, kind of like when we said driver scores were a bit like your credit scores. They're taking all kinds of different data and coming up with you know, you're either a good witch or a bad witch kind of thing. But here, data like Carfax, you could imagine somebody like that saying, hey, how was that car really driven? And maybe giving a score to that versus, you know, how many shops did it go to or whatever. So we see that emerging. I think the last one is what I call performance and research. Here we're talking about the OEMs, the car manufacturers themselves, and the tier ones. They're interested in this data for a couple reasons. You can imagine if you're a car manufacturer and you put something out on the road, you might want to know if your new model car is having lots of problems. You might also want to know if a whole lot of a certain other car you have is having lots of problems. Now they record those through the dealers and the service centers and everything, but you could get a pretty early warning detection on some of them. Now, which is a problem with some of them as well, because nobody wants the data to be there and recorded. You know, there's that plausible deniability thing. But it is available, and you can do things like this slide's showing. You can look at performance and wear. You can look at driving behavior and how it affects a particular component. And then you can maybe recommend better components. So we've been approached in every one of these areas, and I would say in every one of these areas there are, you know, numbers in the thousands out on the street. I think we're up to about 2 million devices now. Most are in insurance, but we see more and more of these other ones that are like complementary. So what's cooking in the kitchen? So what are some of the new things we are working on? And we see other people working on in the industry as well. And this is like this is a disclaimer again. All right, we're not committing to these features. We are dabbling with some of them. We have other ones further down the road. We're not going to tell you which is which at this point. But we're here to say, here's some use cases that you might find attractive, and they're things we have experimented with. Just because you can get something to work with one car, you know, doesn't mean you can get it to work with all cars. You know, there's just 30,000 makes and models going back to 1996 that you can put this in. And they all have different, you know, features and functions and ways to communicate with them. So, but we have looked at some of these. First one, pretty simple concept, remote start. We did manage to remotely start our CEO's car recently, and that was fun. We were just using texting to do it. You could do door unlock, something like that. That's a handy feature that you might want to have. We're working on an occupant recognition system so you can know who that person is driving. I try to tell I lie to my kids. I love to lie to my kids. I think it's healthy. So, you know, I tell them things like, yeah, there's cameras in there. There's a breathalyzer that measures the ambient air, so don't even breathe. You know, they're not sure. So, but hey, we might be able to tell who's there. There are people looking at, detecting the seatbelt. Some of these are messages available on the bus if you know how to ask for them. Some of them are probes you have to make to the vehicle to find out. But they're the kind of things people are interested in understanding. They want to know, is your seatbelt on? Did your airbag deploy? This is not us talking about, as you could see from the last presentation, we focus a lot in the OEM realm, working with the car manufacturers. We're very familiar with what they're doing in their next-gen systems and everything like that. But we get asked, by people all over the place, well, why can't we just take the, airbag accelerometer and use that instead of have one in your device? No, we're not going to use the airbag accelerometer. By the way, if you go way back in time, that accelerometer was not an accelerometer, it was a ball and a tube. When you hit something hard enough, that ball went let loose. So now it's a plate, capacitive plate, where you measure in the arena of femtofarads. So, we're not going to mess with that one either, because that's really tiny. But we do want to know. Insurance companies might want to know that. Wrecking companies, ambulances that are being dispatched might want to know. We're working with some companies that are looking at, even with what we have right now on the acceleration realm, okay, they're looking at the science behind human injury. How injured could you be based on that type of a collision? Did you really get whiplash, or are you winging it? These are some of the things that's available. That kind of analytics is available now with what we have. It's the piecing it all together. Oops, I think I skipped one. And everybody wants to know things like tire pressure low. Might want to fix that. Usually now the cars just tell you that, but you can buy aftermarket things to do it as well. We've looked at it. And then you could do something like, put a microphone in there. You could probably tell if somebody smashed into your car or whatever. These are things that all require something in the vehicle all the time in a kind of low power sleep state, ready to roll. All right, I think I only have one more. The next one is not with the device, could be, but right now in the next presentation is going to talk a little bit more about DSRC and V2V and V2I, meaning vehicle to vehicle communications. Right now we've just been talking your vehicle to the mothership, but now we're going to talk a little bit about vehicle to vehicle and what they call vehicle to infrastructure, which is us outfitting lots of equipment in cities and places so you can tell whether two cars are going to collide coming through an intersection or something like that. But these types of things for crash, let's not look at crash, it is, let's try and avoid that kind of a thing. That's what we're looking at down the future. And how can we manage congestion knowing where everybody is and stop lights and that kind of stuff. That could be coming down the road. All right, that's it for me. Thanks for coming and listening. Any questions? All right.
The texting blocker, is that in some states, or is it here in Michigan?
It's here anywhere, meaning the texting blocker, there's lots of different ones out there, but the app is just an app. It runs on any phone, right? It requires that it get a Bluetooth signal from the device that says, that signal basically changes the name string of the device and says, I am a car moving, all right? And then the app says, okay, you're in a car that's moving, we're done.
Yeah, but I would think there's a lot of concerned parents that would just want to be able to put a device in the car where it would block any signal whether you like it or not. Apps can be manipulated so that...
Right. We don't have a cell phone jammer in it. You know what I mean? What's funny is some of the fleet customers we work with, the fleet guys are pretty creative about not being tracked, and we have met people who have bought cell phone jammers and put them in their fleet truck to jam all the telematic systems. Unfortunately for them, the cell chip inside of it detects whether it's been jammed. So they get busted. But
So are you guys going after that market from a consumer end of it at all?
no, we haven't done too much on the consumer end, but we'll offer the service to people. In any one of those vertical offerings or any other service area, it's simple as turning that Bluetooth on. Doesn't add any extra, for us, doesn't add any extra cost or anything, you know. As long as you have the Bluetooth chip in there, we just send the data out. You gotta buy their app. I mean, their app's smart enough to know, you know, have policy controls and things like that, to know that kids might wanna turn it off. It's also smart enough to report when it's been turned off, so. So, I mean, you can't make things impossible, but you can certainly log what they're doing and shut them down a fair amount.
Yeah.
Anything else?
You briefly talking about cases in Europe, and particularly right now in Europe, EC is going to bring the real driving emission, standard.
Emissions.
Yes, real
Yes.
driving emissions,
Mm-hmm.
like a test protocol. And what do you think that this OBD2 make an impact of the real driving emission?
Now, I just want to make sure I get the words you're saying. Is it rear?
Real driving,
We are.
real driving.
We are driving emissions.
RDE, yeah.
Yes. So you're interested in emissions analysis?
Yes.
Yes. And pretty much that OBD port was invented for that.
Okay.
That was its primary purpose in life, was we want to be able to get in and look at, emissions data from the vehicle.
So it probably EPA likely follow.
Right.
Okay.
Mike, how do you deal with, you mentioned 30,000 different models, and you have one device. How do you deal with fragmentation, and how do you support functionality across?
It's a good question. That's why I put the your mileage may vary thing in there. So it turns out it works in over 98% of the vehicles in North America. But I'll put a big star on works, meaning each vehicle supports, say there's, 80 to 90 OBD parameters, all right, that are supposed to be standard and regulated. They're not standard and regulated. Well, they're regulated, but they're not standard in the vehicles, and not all vehicles report all variables. But we know there are certain ones that are reported more than others. And what we do is we query the vehicle in the beginning to ask it, which of the many parameters do you support at the beginning of every trip? And that's a standard OBD request, and it comes back with a standard answer. Now, once you start getting in the realm of things like remote start, airbags, now you're outside of the OBD arena. You're into the auto-specific commands, and as you can imagine, they vary all over the map. So it's very difficult. People that have done this have looked at particular commands that are outside OBD. They might have to reverse engineer, hundreds and hundreds of cars to.
So your added value is the device itself, or the database of know-how to communicate with different work?
Well, we make the device.
Okay.
As you saw in the last presentation, we know a lot about the vehicle communication buses. We specialize in automotive communication, engineering for ECUs as well as bus diagnostics and certification. So we know how they work, but we don't, have the commands from 40 different manufacturers in North America and, 200 or something like that worldwide. You have to work, but we do work with companies that are that have reversed engineered things, and that's what we're doing. We're looking at partnerships where we can get commands and information from folks to provide services. Like it's a lot easier. Say you're doing a fleet that's homogeneous. It's all Ford F-150s. Pretty easy to offer lots of extra services based on that. But if you're looking at 30,000 makes and models, it's near impossible to nail down any one of them across all of them. Okay, so it's 3 o'clock. We're ready for the next presentation, and we look forward to joining with who's ever coming tonight when we go over to the go-kart racing and test our crash analysis, something like that. All right?
Airbag.